if you talk really loud like me, okay? All right. So part of the upcoming sections are going to talk about rational functions and solving rational equations. So what you need to do is remember how to do rational expressions, which, thanks, is actually going to be on a quiz when we get to the section. So we're going to first off start with a little 5th grade review of fractions, okay? When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across the top and bottom, or you can simplify. Do you remember this business? Like 3 goes in here once and in here 5 times, 2 goes in here once and in here 18 times, so we end up with 5/18. Everybody good? Okay. When you divide fractions, what do? You don't need a least common denominator. You multiply by the reciprocal. So the first one stays, the second one flips, and then you're just multiplying. So 20 goes in here once and in here twice. So I have 7 times 2 is 14. 14, yeah, clearly what I wrote. Or not. And in the denominator, 1 times 11 is 11, and we're not going to worry about in being improper today. Okay. When you add or subtract, so this is when you need a common denominator, right? All right, so real quick, if I say 14 is a 2 times 7 and 21 is a 3 times 7, our new denominator is going to have a 2, a 3, and a 7. Does everybody remember this? So that 2 and 7 go in here. This one will need to multiply by. If the common denominator has a 2, a 3, and a 7, then this one had a 2 and a 7, so it needs to multiply by 3/3. This one had a 3 and a 7 in the denominator. It needs a 2, a 3, and a 7, so it needs to multiply by 2/2. So we end up with 9/42 plus 14/42. Then you do what? Add the numerator and get 23 over the common denominator, which was 42. All right, so down here, this is, let's see, a 4 times a 5, and this one's a 4 times a 9. So the common denominator would need a 4 and a 5 and a 9. Anybody know what 4 times 5 times 9 is? It's going to be 180. Yep. So what does this one need to multiply by top and bottom? Has a 4 and a 5, so it will need a 9. Somebody help me. What's 19 times 9? Thank you. Okay. Over here, this one had a 4 and a 9, so it needs a 5 on the top and the bottom. So we wind up with minus 25 over 4 times 5 times 9. 171 minus 25, anybody? 166 minus 21, 46, which would then reduce, but I just don't care. Okay, close enough. We got as far as getting a common denominator. All right, so I am going to start with warm-up problem, or with actual problem off the worksheet, number 2. Now, somebody's going to get all excited and go, oh, there's an m squared, there's an m squared, there's a 6, there's a 6. Can we do that business? No. Those are killing kittens. Okay. Wait a minute. What do I want to do? Go back and undo this. Okay. So what do we have to do instead? We have to factor. What can we do up top here? Okay. So we have 5 and an m minus 4. And the denominator? A 6 and an m squared would be great. That would leave an m minus 4. We have a 6m squared up here. And the denominator over here factors m minus 3 and m plus 2. I'm helping you out there. Now, if if this wasn't a 6m squared, but like maybe it was a 12m squared, could we still reduce it with this 6m squared? Yeah, because it's a 6 times an m times an m. So you could cancel with anything on the top with anything on the bottom. It happens to be exactly a 6m squared and a 6m squared. Anything else reduce? Yep. So the only numerator is 5. And you don't need to FOIL these back together. Okay, just leave it. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to do one division one as well. Just so you remember, let's do number 3 here. The first fraction stays except it factors. So the r plus 5 stays on the bottom. What can we do to the top? 7r and r plus 10. Yep. It's still there. You okay? Got it? Great question. I would not want to mislead you. All right, what do we do when we switch it to multiplication though? Yes, so this is now the top and this one's now the bottom. So the new top, I can take out an 8 and an r squared. Is that good? Which leaves an r plus 5. How'd I do? Okay. And the r squared plus 5r minus 50 factors how? R plus 10 and r minus 5. Does that work? I think so. Okay. So now what can I divide out? Math teachers always say you're really not supposed to say cancel because we're dividing them out. R plus 5 and an r plus 5. R plus 10 and an r plus 10. Okay. So all that's left in the denominator is an r minus 5. What can we do with this numerator though? We can smush them together, right? What's 8 times 7 or 7 times 8? And there's an r and an r squared, so we have an r cubed. Now nobody's going to cancel an r when you get to the end there, right? Because this is a quantity. All right? Now, that would be the end of the fun ones, because for the adding and subtracting ones, we have to have a common denominator. So, I'm going to do number 6. I'm going to factor this. It's a 3 and an x minus 4. Is that okay, guys? Now, to have a common denominator, the new denominator is going to have what? A 3 and an x minus 4 and an x plus 5. Okay, so this first fraction had a 5x already on the top. And we got to multiply it by an x plus 5, top and bottom. Right? Then, over here, we had a 6x over an x plus 5. What does this one need still? Yeah, a 3 and an x minus 4. All right. So the new denominator, can I just write it once, guys? The new denominator is 3x minus 4 and x plus 5. Okay, what happens up top, though? Can you distribute this? Because we might be able to combine some like terms. 5x squared plus 25x. Okay, what are we doing over here? Can we just make that mess right there an 18x before we distribute it? Is that going to confuse anybody? I'm just trying to save us a little space here. So 18x distributed through the x minus 4 will be an 18x squared minus 36, 72x, I think. Did I double that enough times? Okay. So I can, in fact, simplify the top a little bit. If I combine like terms, I have a lovely 23x squared minus maybe 47. Somebody check my math there. X. 25 minus 72? No? Is that right? Okay. Now, I could take out on the top what? An X. If you want to factor the X out of the top, it's fine. But I just look at it and I go, okay, I could take an X out of the top, but there's nothing that it's going to cancel with, so I'm just going to leave it, okay? If you want to factor the X out of the top, it's fine, but it's not going to cancel out anyway. Divide out. I didn't say the cancel word, did I? Okay. Number 7. I'm going to do 7 and 8 because these are subtraction, and subtraction is painful for students because they forget to distribute the subtracting. All right, what's the common denominator going to need here? Can I just put a 5 here and we'll be good? Yeah, unfortunately, no, I can't because this is a quantity and this is a different quantity. So this one is currently minus this one. But they need a common denominator. So what's the new denominator going to have? Yeah, the 5b plus 3 and a plain old b plus 3. So here I have to put that top and bottom. This one has a b plus 3. It's going to need a 5b plus 3. Does everybody understand that it doesn't matter that I put one at the front, that the order's different on the bottom? They're the same thing, right? So the new denominator is a 5b plus 3 and a b plus 3. Okay. Over here on the left, all we have to do is what? Distribute, and we get 3b plus 9. But then we have to subtract all of this FOIL together. So I'm going to put a big old parenthesis here. Can you tell me what this FOILs together to make? Oh, 5b squared. I lost the 5 already. 5b squared plus a 3b. 5b times 5 would be 25b. And the 5 times 3 at the end is a plus 15. Now, is this where some of you would forget that we're subtracting all of that? Okay. So do you want me to write it out again, or you want to just go through and change all the signs? What did I do wrong? Somebody lost? You could definitely combine these inside and get a 28b, right? But the whole top has to be subtracted. So I'm going to write a negative. I'm going to change this to plus and change all these signs if that's okay with everybody. Just be real careful when you go through that you remember they're all negatives now. Okay, final answer has a denominator of 5b plus 3 and b plus 3. Okay, what can we combine up top? Well, I'm actually going to start with the b squared, so there aren't any to combine, right? So it's a negative 5b squared. So I got rid of those. What about the plain old b's? Yes, this 3b and this minus 3b is 0. So I have a negative 25b, or whatever order you want to get it there. And then I have a 9 minus 15 back here is a minus 6. Now, you could take a negative out of the top. You could try to factor it. Do you want to just take my word for it that even if you try, it's not going to reduce? Okay. All right, so your assignment on this is to do the back. If you run into some questions, I think the answer key is already posted in the Google Classroom, but if you run into questions on the back, we can do them, 1 or 2 a day. We'll just do some warm up next week on this if you need me to. Okay. Any questions on this one?